Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you once again to the the producer show coming out of the heart of West Memphis, Arkansas. We are so excited to be here today. We are glad that each and every one of you tuned in to our show. We're going to have another show talking about um, some of the obstacles that we as African Americans face getting our books published and talk about writing and uh, things in this area. We have none other than Charles Holly. He's an awesome brother that's going to come to us today and just share with us and help those that are striving to get their books published, put their books together, how to go about to writing the books. He's going to share with us during this broadcast to get us to where we need to be so we can get our books published and do all that we are desiring to do. Uh, hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, brother. Thank you so much for having me again on your show.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you here today. We're going to let you take the lead on this since we're going to talk about this writing today to help us to get where we need to be able to write books or whatever we want to do. Uh, we know you are the man to get us there. So,
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. For those of you who did not join us last time, I am CL Holly, Charles Holly. I go by Speaker Holly because I do public speaking as well. I have written around about 10 books in the past 18 years. And I got started writing after the tragic passing of my 13-year-old son when I was
hmm
just writing just to try and get some things out of me and not really realizing that I was writing some very, very good materials. And so
right,
that's how I got started writing in that. And so I've been writing ever since. And I write all types of books, um, business books, black and white books on racism, forgiveness. So I write different types, and I get this question a lot, and this is what we're going to spend time on tonight. People often ask me, how do I get started in writing? Because I think the hardest part about writing is
hmm
just getting started, Doc.
right,
Just getting started, because so many people just aren't very familiar with the writing process, with the
right,
publishing process, with the marketing process.
hmm
So the very first thing that we must do is write. Okay,
right,
and so I'm going to lay out some steps: one, two, three, four, five, six, and so forth. But I want to just emphasize this: writing is what sells the book. It's
right,
the writing.
hmm
So the writing has to be up to par. It has to be interesting. It has to
right,
draw people. It has to appeal to people. It has to challenge people. If you can imagine, we just had this wonderful holiday, Thanksgiving. And some
right,
of us, even though our crowds may have been small, we had a table set. And all
hmm
around the table, we had dressing, macaroni and cheese, and
right,
everything else. But in the middle of the table, what do you have? You got the bird, right? The bird is the word, right?
right,
So everything around the table, other than that bird, is just window
hmm
dressing. The
right,
main course is that turkey. Well, think about it like that when it comes to writing.
hmm
The main part of any book is your writing. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And let's go step by step. What is the first thing that I should do? If I'm considering writing a book,
hmm
what is the first step that I need to take? Well, here's the first
right,
step. The first step is not to start writing. That's not it.
hmm
The first step is to answer two key questions. Okay. The first question is what we would call the what question.
hmm
The what. What is my book going to be about?
okay,
Now, Last time we talked, Doc, you said that you were interested in writing a book about your life. Okay, so that sounds like a autobiography book. Some people may want to write a memoir and just write about a particular time period in their life, write about something in particular, but not their whole life. That's what we call a
Hmm.
memoir, you know. So, first step is, what do you want to write? Is it something about your life? Is it poetry? Is it recipes? If it is it, information about something? What problem or issue do you want to address? That's,
Right.
you have to understand that, and have that in mind first, because everything else you do is going to flow based on your answer to that question. So that's the first thing. What?
Right.
What do I want to write about? What problem or what issue do I want to address? And the last what is this: what do I want this book to accomplish? You have to write all those three. You have to have answers to those three things before you even start writing. What do I want to accomplish with this book? What is the end goal? Do I want to make people think? Do I want to make people angry? Do I want to make people aware? Do I want to make people inspired? I mean, what is it? What is the end goal of your book? Okay, so those are the what questions. The second type of question that you have to answer is who. Who am I writing this book for? And most of the time, Doc, I started out writing thinking that my books were going to apply to everybody, but I was wrong. Nobody's book
Right.
applies to everybody. So you have to have your audience, your niche audience, your primary audience in mind.
Hmm.
Who's it going to be? Age 18 and up? Are they going to be white? Are they going to be black? Are they going to be both?
Hmm.
You have to decide who your primary audience is. Why is it so important? That's important because you're going to write to that audience. You have to
Right.
use the language that that audience understands. So there's a big difference between writing books for adults and writing books for children, because you
Right.
use different language. Okay.
Hmm.
So you have to decide, who am I writing this book for? Because throughout my writing, I'm going to have to picture myself sitting in front of this group of people,
Right.
talking and communicating with them. And that's how I'm
Hmm.
going to decide my language, my tone, and everything else. So you got to have those two. First is the what, second is the who. Right? So what am I writing about? What am I
Hmm.
addressing? And then the second is, who am I writing to? Now let's just assume that we've got those two things down. Okay, so
Right.
say I've got this book written now, that's called Black and White: Healing Racial Divide. Well, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to address the issue of racism. Who am I writing it to? I'm writing to, my primary audience is black and white or mixed race people who are 18 and above,
Hmm.
all around the world, not just in the United States, global. Okay, and I sell books on a global scale. So that
Hmm.
means that my language has to be understood to somebody in France, in
Right.
UK, in Germany. Okay.
Hmm.
So I've got to write for an audience that's bigger than the United States of America. Okay.
So you're not just
Now, so I've
writing for
got those.
people in your neighborhood. Right.
That's right. That is absolutely right, Doc. And that is so important. Now, if I were just writing to people in my neighborhood, I'd be using a whole lot of slang and a whole lot of stuff that people may not
Right.
understand, who live
Right.
all the way around the world. But see, I
Hmm.
can't write like I normally talk just to the people that
Hmm.
I know. I have to
Right.
write in a way that other people understand. Okay.
Hmm.
So now that we answered those two questions, what's the next step? All right. The next step then is to write down or do an outline of the things that you want in your
Hmm.
book.
Right.
Okay. Let's just say, for example, I'm writing a autobiography and I want to write about my life. So what I would want to do is I would want to sit down and I would want to jot down everything that happened in my life that I want to include in the book. Now, I'm not writing about details right now. I'm not detailing it. What I'm doing is I'm just creating a quick, dry, dirty outline. And I'm going, one, I want to write about this. Two, I want to write about that. Three, okay. And so I am actually outlining the book and I am actually creating the chapters that I want. So every
Hmm.
major subject in my life, I want to turn into a chapter. Okay.
Right.
So I'm sitting down writing and I'm doing it in chronological order. That's important. Now I'm doing a autobiography. So I want to take people from the beginning of my life all the way up
Hmm.
to the point to where I want to drop them off. And maybe that's at the point of where I am right now in the present. Okay.
Right.
But I want to follow it from my youngest all the way up to my age right now.
Hmm.
So I'm jotting these different things down and I'm creating chapters with them. When I was born, when I was 6 years old, when I was 12 years old, when I was 15, and I'm just writing, not in detail. I'm just jotting
Right.
down things that I want in the book. So I've got a nice, neat outline to follow when I write. And
Right.
that way I make sure that I don't leave anything out when I write my book. Am I helping so far, Doc?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm gonna ask
awesome.
some
So
questions later on.
absolutely, absolutely. So I've got this outline, I've got this data
Hmm.
that's written down.
Right.
It contains chronological order, what I want to
Hmm.
talk about. I even got it divided up into chapters.
Right.
And now my next step is the actual fun part. Now we're gonna get into now let's start writing. Okay. Now I'm going to
I have a
pause here and I'm going to
question.
say this. Yes, yes, go ahead.
So, what if you don't know how to go about breaking it down into chapters? A person that had never done this before, how would
Right.
they go about trying to figure out how to break it down into chapters?
Okay, so major chapters usually include either different time periods
Hmm.
or different thoughts, different major events that
Hmm.
occur, right? Um, my birth
Right.
could be chapter number one. Uh, you know, the accident I had when I was 6, that's chapter two because those are two different occurrences in my life. You
So
see what
you
I'm saying?
break the chapters down like that, kind of like that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, absolutely. So they usually run based on different occurrences, something major
Hmm.
that you want to talk about that you consider to be major, and different thoughts. So that's
Right.
what different chapters are. Mhm. Okay. So now that we've gotten everything broken down into chapters, and now remember we can actually change this later on. Okay, this is not set in stone, but this
Okay.
this is just a plan that we can follow. And if we need to adjust, we can always go back and do that.
Kind of like
Okay, so
brainstorming.
I've got everything. Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So now we've got everything written down. We've got our outline with our points. The next step is to let's start writing. Okay, but before
Hmm.
we start writing, we're gonna have to decide something too. We're gonna have to decide what we would call in writing our POV or our point of view.
Okay.
Okay, who's going to be telling the story? That's what that means. Whose point of
Right.
view is my book coming from? And when
Hmm.
I write autobiographies, when I write about me, I'm telling the story.
Right.
So I write it in first person point of view. We call it first person. Okay. So I write it from my point of view
Hmm.
because it's an autobiography. Now, some
Right.
other types of books you might want to write in second person or what they
Hmm.
would call third person. But if you're going to write about your life, most of the time is written from your own point of view. So I
Okay.
know that I'm going to be writing this thing as if I am telling the story. That's important
Hmm.
because that's going
Right.
to decide which pronouns that I use and decide how I write. Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm going to write it in first person. Another thing that we have to decide is what tense we call it tense we're going to write it in. Okay, past tense, present tense. future.
Hmm.
Okay, because it is a autobiography. Mine includes all three, basically. So I
Okay.
start out writing in the past tense because it's about my
Hmm.
childhood and coming up. Okay. And then I bring it all the way up to what I'm doing today. And I tell people what's happening in my life. So I go into the present. But I also talk to people about what I hope to accomplish in the future. So mine covers all three areas. But you always have to know which tense you're in when you're writing so that you can let the reader know. The reader know where you are in your life. Okay. If you're talking about a period when you're 5 years old,
Hmm.
then you put that in your writing somehow so that the reader knows, okay, I'm reading about Charles when he's 5 years old,
Right.
you know, because they always have to follow you, right, during these different time frames in your life. Okay.
Hmm.
So now we've got the point of view is first. Now we got the tense. I'm going to start out writing in past tense because I'm going to start with
Hmm.
the early part of my life. Okay. Now here comes the fun part. Let's start writing. Now I'm going to share some things with you about writing because after I'm done, you will be able to decide if you have enough talent to write it yourself,
Right.
or you can decide to get someone else to write it for you. We call them ghostwriters. Of course, you have to pay money for that. Okay,
About how
or
much does
you
it
can.
cost to have a ghostwriter?
So it all depends on the size of your story, the length of your story. Some people
Hmm.
charge by the hour. Okay, some ghostwriters charge like that, and some of them I've seen them charge as much as $50 an hour to $100 an hour, and they normally give you a guess, a estimate on how long it's going to take them based
Okay.
on what based on your story, in other words. Okay. So it can get expensive. It can run into several thousand of dollars quickly,
Right.
you know. Or
I
you can
imagine
you
it's
can take.
better to do that though if you're not that good of a writer, uh, than to have your book put out there and it just don't come together like it should. Because I've read some books that people have written, and some of them, it don't flow like it should. So if it
Mhm.
doesn't flow like it should, so many times you want to put it down and just not, you get disinterested in it.
Yes, yes. You got that right, Doc. You got that right. That's exactly something that we're gonna talk about flow. Because if your writing is not good, your book is not going to sell. People
Right.
aren't going to even finish reading it. In fact, that's really a big clue as to how good your writing is. Do people finish your book? If they read
Right.
just a little bit of it and never get back to it, what it means is it wasn't captivating enough for them.
Right.
You know. So yes, it is always better to find someone else to do the
Hmm.
writing for you because as we said, the writing is the meat,
Right.
and you can stand
Yeah.
stand to make a whole lot more money than what you put into it if
Right.
it's written well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Something I've kind of, if I'm reading a book and if it don't really get my attention in about 15 minutes, I'm ready to put it down because it's just like, okay, this don't really interest me. So
Absolutely, Doc. We say in writing that you have a few sentences and possibly
hmm.
even a few paragraphs before you hook somebody. We call it a hook. Before you
Right.
hook a reader into keep reading, into continuously into wanting to continue to read. And if you don't hook that reader by that time, odds are you probably lost them because if they picked up the first time and wasn't interested, they're not
Hmm.
going to pick it up again more than likely. You know,
So
so you
at the
have this
beginning it needs to
one-time
have
opportunity. Yes,
so at the beginning it needs to have
absolutely,
something that really catches your attention at the beginning to keep you reading. So
absolutely, absolutely.
do you have to do that continually throughout the book? Make sure you got those points and those areas that keep you interested and keep you reading chapter by chapter.
Yes, Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that right now, as a matter of fact. So, when you start writing, the first thing that you want to start out with is a hook. We've already talked about it. And it's something that grabs
Hmm.
the reader's attention. Okay. And in this particular hook, you are aiming to draw out, draw on someone's emotion. In other words, you want to make this person laugh
Right.
or smile or wonder, or you want to present mystery in order to
Hmm.
make a person want to continue to read. So when you start out your book, you need to draw the reader's attention, as we say, at least within the first two paragraphs.
Right.
They have to want to continue to read. Okay. Um, let me give you an example from one of my books. I'm just going to read. It's called Soar, and it's about my life. Here is the beginning introduction.
Hmm.
My deepest wounds have become my strongest testimonies. It's amazing how my story has inspired readers around the world, but the road to victory was slow and
Hmm.
painful. Now, let me put that down. Now, do you want to continue there?
Yeah, that'll make you want to
Now, what did
continue.
I do?
You caught.
What did
You
I do?
grabbed
I
my attention.
presented, hmm hmm I presented mystery. Then
Right.
uh, I said, my deepest wounds have
Hmm.
become my strongest testimony. Now, that means that
So
some tragic has happened in my life, but I've turned it into a testimony. Now, who wouldn't want to know about that?
right, because that
You know,
saying what you said, you said it in a way that makes me want to find out a little more about it. So yeah, so that
exactly,
keeps you interested
exactly.
in reading.
Exactly. And that's what the hook is. And just like you said, you present things like that. Doesn't have to
Hmm.
be the exact same thing, but you present those things throughout the book from chapter to
Right.
chapter in different ways. Okay. Mystery, shock, suspense, you know,
Hmm.
all these things have to be included in your writing in order
Hmm.
for a person to continue to read. Okay.
Right.
So if you were to write the first sentence of your book, what would
Hmm.
you write? How would you put it? How would you draw
Hmm.
the reader in? Anybody in our listening audience, feel free to type it in. Type something in and send it to Dr. Smith. How would you start out your book? The the very first sentence. The very first
Hmm.
sentence. Listen to this. This is another one of my books, Saving America. Now this is a political book. But listen to how I started out. It wasn't the sound of the gunshot that made my mother leap from her rocking chair. She was accustomed to hearing my father shoot his gun, mainly at rabbits, squirrels, and the like. Rather, it was the torturous sound of agonizing pain that made her rush to the small window of the tiny blockhouse, curiously gazing throughout the front yard. She looked for clues in the origin of the sound that indicated bloody murder.
Hmm.
Suddenly, she saw my father calmly walking past the window with his shotgun draped over his shoulder. She held her hands over her panicked heart, trying to decrease its rapid rhythm. Oh no, oh my God, she exclaimed. You want me to finish
Yeah, that
that?
made me want to hear more. Keep on reading, man. Yeah.
That's an example of hooking.
Right.
And you do that throughout your writing. different chapters, different places, presenting that mystery, building it up, and then you just gradually walk into it and unfold it as you write.
So let me ask you this, because I know somebody probably
Hmm.
want to know. Did somebody have to train you to do it that way, or was it just came naturally? Because I know as you was reading it, I'm thinking about if I had to do that, could I put it together like that? And right now I had to say no, but I wanted you to keep reading, just like our listener out there that's on there. She said keep reading because it's like it caught your attention. so so needless to say, after the broadcast, I'm going to buy the book. Oh, so and that's what we as African Americans need to hear. We need to hear that our own people can write like this.
Yes,
Our own people can put
absolutely,
stuff like this together, and we
absolutely,
need
Doc.
to buy more books from our own people. We buy from everybody else,
Yes,
but we don't always support one another.
absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. Doc, part of it is just talent because God has really gifted me to be able to communicate, to
Hmm.
speak, and everything, and to write. But I also had to take a writing course. I took a online writing class. It was
Hmm.
probably a couple of $1,000, and it was something that lasted probably about 6 months, 7 months. But it taught me a
Hmm.
lot about writing. It taught me about word placement. It taught me about word usage. So I really you know uh, had a really great time, and it
Hmm.
really helped my writing, boosted it. So it was so part talent and just part training. You know.
Hmm. So it's courses like that. That's like self-paced, or how is it? Or is it like like almost like a classroom type?
It was a one-on-one self-paced course. So
Okay.
the person would actually give me something to actually write about, and I would actually take a little time. I would write it, send it back, and then that person would actually kind of go over it and correct it.
Hmm.
Talk to me about how I could have said this better or that. I mean, it was a very 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 good course. So it was a personal one-on-one thing, but it was at a self-paced type issue.
So it was one on
Yes,
one.
good. Yes,
Wow,
absolutely.
that's good. That's good.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was trying to figure out how you doing something like that online, but yeah, if it's one on one, I can
Hmm.
understand the process.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So hook. Now you all know about hooks, right? So another thing to also include in your writing,
Hmm.
we say show, don't tell. Show, don't tell.
And what that mean?
Okay. What that means is when you're writing, show people the character of other people
Hmm.
and not just tell them. In other words, it's one thing to say my father was mean. You just told me that your father was mean, but show me why
Hmm.
you say your father was mean. In
Hmm.
other words, give me some examples, right? Write down some things, describe some things that he did or said, right?
Right.
So that's why we say show, don't tell. Let me read something else to you. A good example of show, don't tell. Now, if I were to just tell you that my father was strange, he was a very unique person. Now I can sit here and tell you that, or I can just read about him. Here it goes. My father toiled in the fields from sun up to sundown, 6 days a week to provide for a wife and 10 children.
Mm.
Most of the time, he was warm and gentle, but at the flip of a switch, he became mean and often delivered discipline in brutal ways. His
mm,
violent mood swings were rooted in the conflict of his past. Born in the early 1900s, he sharecropped most of his life for his landlords. He constantly dragged his family from house to house and never had a
mm,
place to call his own. He often complained about being cheated and shorted during harvest season, the time
mm.
when owners and sharecroppers divided the farming proceeds. He had a
Right.
huge distrust of whites, and the racial chip on his shoulder expressed itself through heated confrontation with his white
Mm.
neighbors. During these conflicts, it wasn't uncommon for him to wheel a shotgun inches from his white neighbor's face. A
Mm.
deacon in the church, he would often tell them, "Get out of my yard before I send you to meet Jesus."
Yeah, yeah, that had my attention. Ah, yeah, that had my
Now, see the
attention.
difference? Now, I could have just sat
Ready
here
to
and told you
read
that,
that,
my
boy.
daddy was a mean man. But you see how I broke it down and I
Right.
explained it and I gave you examples? That's what we mean show, don't
Mm.
tell.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I couldn't put it together like that right now. Woo, ain't no need of me lying. I couldn't put it together like that right now. It's just like, it's woo, wow. That's like she just said, wow. And, ah, we need to have a story time on the
See,
broadcast.
yeah, see, it's all about like the class I took taught me a lot about
Right.
words
Hmm.
and word usage.
Right.
Um, there are some words that are more powerful than other words, make a more
Hmm.
deeper impression than other
Hmm.
words, and you have to choose your words to have the most effect, you know, and use the fewest words possible to
Right.
make your point, you know.
See, I've
So,
I've taken classes for writing for like in business and stuff like that on the
hmm
job, and it's
hmm
totally different from writing a book. Uh,
yes,
you
yes,
you ain't gonna use none of this stuff uh, uh, in business, but in writing this book, it's like wow, this like it catches your attention. And
yes,
I'm being honest, we need to see more of us that have these
yes,
skill sets and willing to share this information with us so we can see because it's better when we can see us being able to do this instead of somebody else's book. We have
yes,
the same skill sets as everybody else. We just don't
yes.
always get the attention that other people get.
hmm
So that's why
Absolutely.
a lot of things what I'm trying to do is highlight us. You know, we're going to be doing a series on black business owners and stuff like that because we need to
hmm
see us see that and let people know that we are doing things as well as everybody else. We don't always
Absolutely,
have
Doc.
to patronize their business, that we need to patronize ours. Because when we look at times right now, uh, businesses are falling by the wayside, and ours falling even faster than our white counterparts. So it's so important
Yes,
for us to to realize, especially during this time when you got so many people that's on social media, they need to be able to see this and get
hmm
exposed to some of the things that could even help them to start a business. You know, so
yes.
it's important what we're doing right now is very important. I think at least.
Absolutely, Doc. And when you look at our people, Doc, we have some of the most rich experiences
Hmm.
of all Americans because of
Right.
what we have gone through and continue to go
Hmm.
through. But we have to learn how to relate those experiences to people
Right.
who don't look like us, you know.
Hmm.
And that's what happens when you learn how to write,
Hmm.
not just for blacks, but you have to write for white people and everybody else. Like I said,
Right.
globally. Yes. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is this. Now, we just talked about show, don't tell. The next thing I want to share is get vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. Your readers have to see your willingness to share some things that deeply, deeply hurt, especially when we're talking about writing autobiographies, memoirs.
Hmm.
You have to be able to share some things that deeply, deeply hurt. Now, in this book, Soar, in my book, Soar, I talk about one of the most painful moments in my life. And I
Hmm.
even talk about a moment when I even, doubted the very existence of God. And so
Really?
when I talk about, yes, yes, when I talk about, and I was preaching at the time, Doc. I had been called, to preach, and when my son passed, there was a
Okay.
moment in time when I
Yeah.
even thought maybe there's not a God, you know.
Hmm.
Let me just read this because this is from my book Soar, and it's happening at my son's funeral. So
Hmm.
we're having my son's funeral, and this is where it kind of picks up. I'm sitting on the front pew, my wife and my daughter sitting beside me, and our son's body is in a casket about 6 feet away from us. And
Hmm.
that's when I just drifted into La La Land. So here's what it says: a fierce battle raged within me, and I reasoned, how could I have believed in the fairy tale of God? If there really was a God, why would he allow this to happen to a good son like mine, piled by his body to pay their respect? Some of them whispered kind words and gave us hugs of comfort. My wife gazed upon my son's body and cried. My daughter sat still and stared straight ahead at the glossy green casket we picked out for him. I couldn't think straight, and I had forgotten the few words I had prepared for my son's eulogy. Is this all there is? I wondered. This would be the defining moment of whether I continue to believe in God or live the rest of my life without Him. One last time, I looked through tears as I gazed up and silently prayed, Father, if you're real, I need you. I need to hear your voice and to feel your presence. You promised to give me the peace that goes beyond human understanding. I need you to step off the pages of the Bible and be real. The lowest moment of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And he stepped off the pages too, Doc. And I write about that. I tell you exactly what happened. He stepped off the pages and showed up.
Good. Yeah. You did. You did a very good job. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
went to your site the other day, and I am gonna. I'm an ebook man, as you said before, but I'll probably end up getting the majority of your books, and just putting them on my tablet, and so
mhm.
when I have opportunity, I can read and take my
Yeah,
time and get through. So
yes, absolutely, absolutely. But being vulnerable, and lots of times, Doc, when especially as black males, we may not want to be that vulnerable, but
right.
you need to do that because somebody somewhere needs that. They
Right.
need that. Okay. And so the next thing I want to talk about is smooth using smooth transitions. When we move from one thought to another thought, uh, one place in our life to another place,
Hmm.
we need to use what we would call smooth transitions. And that what that
Right.
means is as I'm finishing one place in my life,
Hmm.
kind of allude to where I'm going in the next place of my life.
Right.
Kind of, start getting people ready, getting people prepared and just kind of say just a little bit about what might be coming, but don't spill the beans. That's how you make a
Exactly.
real smooth transition from one place in your life to another. That's you said it earlier. You said flow. That's what we mean. It has to flow.
Right.
It has to easily flow. The reader has to easily follow you from whatever from wherever you are now to wherever you want to take them to next. And there has to
Exactly.
be a bridge in between that. Okay. So that's how you produce books that flow. Right. And now and then the last thing I want to talk about is, like you said, we got to use suspense, mystery,
Right.
conflict, comedy, and even a little exaggeration.
Mhm.
A little exaggeration. Now, notice I said a little exaggeration. Now, I'm not supposed to just flat out lie, but use a little exaggeration.
Woo!
Use a little exaggeration. Okay.
Right.
Make things just a little bit bigger than they are. Okay.
Mhm.
But, tell the truth, but tell it in a way that's flashy, that is, interesting. All right. So my book, Black and White, Healing Racial Divide. I want to read a short portion of it. This is from the introduction. In 1997, my wife and I had a tiny, rambunctious, and extremely curious little girl named Kiana. At age 4, she often sampled strange products as part of her diet. She sampled dirt. She sampled hair grease. But her favorite non edible product was hand lotion. If she did a commercial for breakfast cereal, her tagline would have been hand lotion, the breakfast of champions. One day, she was in her room playing with her collection of toys, which included a small set of marbles. I listened from another room as she made loud rambling sounds. Suddenly, the noises stopped. I was curious and went to investigate. To my horror, I saw my little girl grasping at her throat, struggling to speak. I instantly realized she must have tried to sample one of the small marbles, and it had gotten stuck in her throat. She couldn't breathe. Frantic, I yelled to my wife, "Call 911! Kiana can't breathe." And I'm going to stop right there. Now,
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You got it.
so I take that, though, I take that and I use that and I connect it with the call that
Mhm.
we have today in fighting for racial justice.
Right.
You know, uh, the "I can't breathe" movement,
Mhm.
and so I take that and I connect the two. Like I say, I make this
Right.
smooth transition, and I start talking about blacks and what we're going through and what we've been through over
Mhm.
400 years. You know, yeah.
So is that the last book you wrote?
Yes, yes, that's my latest book. Yes, Black and
Okay.
White: Healing Racial Divide.
So how many years have you been writing books? How long, when did you get
I
started?
Yes, sir. I've been writing for a little over 18 years, and
Wow.
I got started. Let's say my son died in 2001, and I actually started writing about him probably about 3 or 4 months after he passed. But my
Mhm.
first book wasn't published about him till close to probably about 9 months after he passed. My first book was entitled "When Flowers Fade." So I've been writing for a little over 18 years, and I love it, Doc. I enjoy it, and it's been good. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. You
So let
you
let
got it.
me let let me share.
Right.
Let me share. If you were to go to my site, my website. Of
Mm.
course, the books are listed, and if you were to click on the book Black and White, it will take you to Amazon. And on
Right,
Amazon, you can also read reviews. And so I want to read you something that somebody wrote who read the book. Now, this person is from the UK, the United Kingdom,
right.
and this person read the book and they left a book review. Now listen to this. This person says, "I don't know what I was expecting from this book, but I was pleasantly intrigued and consumed with the author's compassion.
Mm.
A must read, couldn't put it down." Now that's what you want to hear, Doc.
Yeah, that ain't
That's
bad.
what you want to hear
From the UK.
from the
Ain't bad.
UK. Couldn't put it
Did a good
down.
job. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm about to pick it up. And read that one more. Yeah, that's you good.
Oh, so
God
it's
blesses us to do different things, and He's blessed you to be able to do
yes,
it and do it well.
it,
And
yes,
we are
absolutely.
so glad that and so that you came on and been able to come on these last 2 weeks to
Mhm.
speak on this. And surely this is not going to be the last time we have you on. Uh,
Oh no,
never
oh no,
know.
oh
Never
no.
know. You might do a conference or something. You never know. We can put it together.
Amen,
Yeah,
amen,
yeah,
amen.
yeah.
Absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. I hope something that I've said or read tonight has actually helped people to see what they need to do.
I was
Um,
definitely
so, like I
blessed.
said, if yes, yes. So if you know if you like I said, if you think you can do that, and some people have just that we call it raw talent. Some people
Hmm.
have that raw talent to do that,
Right,
and one of your listeners, you may be the one, but
right.
sometimes people need help as well. So, but at least tonight, you should know by now. Can I do this, or do I need help? You
I think I could do it, but I still need help. Woo! Yeah, yeah.
know.
I guess
Oh, you can do it,
especially
Doc. You can
with
do it.
the first time you try to do it, how to put it together and to put it together right. Um, that is as you was going through it, the process from the beginning of the broadcast today. I was trying to figure out, can I do this? Is this something that
Hmm.
I would be willing to try?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to try it, but
Hmm.
I would have to have some help and guidance.
Yeah.
That's like you took classes,
Yeah.
reading, writing classes, and stuff like that. I would
Hmm.
want to take a writing class for doing something like this because to
Yeah.
listen at how you made the book flow and made it grab your attention is something that I would have to develop because I ain't never even thought about trying to do it that way. So yeah,
Hmm. 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 Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, Doc. But you can do it though, Doc. You can do it. You can start out writing what you know, and you can
Hmm.
get some help in doing those things that you need help with. That's what I did
Right.
basically. So the parts that I had to learn, like I said, about how to make things flow, how to use certain words,
Right.
how to even set up mysteries, all those
Hmm.
things I had to learn. There wasn't raw for me. I had to learn those things.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can do it, Doc. You can do it, and definitely you can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to really thank you for coming on tonight and um, 2 weeks in a row and doing this. And we will definitely be getting in touch with you. And I'll be going to the site again tonight. And because I wanted to find out a little more about some of the books. And as you read some of them,
Hmm.
I know this. I'm gonna get that sword one first. I think that's to be the first one I go through and get that one. So and after that, start on some of the other books because I would
Yes.
like writing and reading books that we wrote.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
easy to listen to what somebody else say and their
Yes.
opinion, and we need to know that we know how to flow like you did in that book. So A lot of times we don't
Amen.
have the examples that we need to encourage us to do uh, what you have done in writing the books and being a speaker. And I listened to the clips that I got from you, and you spoke well, very well. And it was like,
Thank you,
man,
Doc.
this is
Appreciate it.
somebody that you can kind of learn from. So I hope you don't disappear on me. So
Oh no, Doc. You know I'm always here
uh,
for you. You got my phone number.
yeah, yeah. So
And you all go out to go out to the site speakerholly.com. It's speaker holly HOLLEY.com. Go out to the site, read a little bit about the books, read a little bit about the ministry, and if I can do anything for you, be a speaker or anything like that, or help you, with some writing, hit me up. Let me know. Okay, be glad to do that.
all right, we want to thank you. Anything you want to say to everybody before we get out of here?
If you have an interesting story and you're thinking about writing a book, and not just a story, or just anything you want to write about, you can do it. You just have to have the right steps, and you need the people in your life who's going to help you to make it
Mhm.
professional. But you
Right.
can do it. You can do this. Have every bit of confidence in you. You can do it. That's all I want to say.
All right. All right. We want to thank all our listeners for tuning in tonight to the Producer Show. We are so excited about what God is doing in this place. And as what we're trying to do next is start highlighting black business, black businesses, black businessmen, men in different areas of business, so we can see us doing things that people try to make it seem like we're not doing. So we need to be visible, especially during this time transition, because as you look at so many people that's losing jobs, sometimes we have to create our own job, our own business, and you never know what you will be able to do by hearing somebody else that may inspire you to do something that you wouldn't have otherwise even tried. So we want to thank you again, uh, Brother Holly. We just appreciate you, and God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening. And tell your family we said hello, and uh, say hello to Alabama for us. Woo.
I sure will, Doc. God bless you. Thank you for having me on your show. And like you said, I look forward to coming back at some point in
All
time.
right.
We'll hook up and do something.
All right, then. Have a good day now.
All right,
Bye bye.
brother. Bye bye.